Now when it comes to texture, such as something like a stuffed animal, I'm going to show you how to kind of do that in the same manner. So I'm going to be focusing on the foot of the stuffed animal. So starting the same way, using my steel wool to lightly and evenly kind of fluff up the fibers of the paper. Use my compressed charcoal. Use my chamois. So like I said, I'm just going to do the leg to give you guys an idea of how to do texture. Now I'm going to use my compressed charcoal to go in and find the darker areas. There's a little bit of a seam right here at the toe. And then that rolls down into the leg and then disappears. There's also a separation between the fur and the pad of the foot. It's not a very hard edge, but I am going to show a few little cracks here and there where we can see that edge between the tufts of fur. Notice how I'm being kind of gestural about it. What gestural just means that I'm just kind of making kind of wispy decisions with my lines. I'm not being super careful about it. I'm just following the contour and using some implied lines and some gestural lines. It's a little bit darker here, so I'm going to add some value. Notice how I'm doing what's called scumbling. It's kind of making those loops to show texture, because I'm mapping out the value pattern of that foot, and then I'm going to go on top of it with my kneaded eraser and with my charcoal pencil to show the details of the fur itself. Since I already have charcoal in my blending stump, I can use that to draw some of that darker value with, rather than relying just on the charcoal pencil or the compressed charcoal itself. It gives me a nice undertone, basically, and it's not as harsh because it's not a hard edge, it's a soft blender. Just going underneath, and I'm blending everything out pretty good, keeping the pattern the way that it is, but making sure that it's not harsh or hard edged, because it's a bunny rabbit, it's fluffy and soft. And then I'm going to spend some time going in and pulling out lighter values with my kneaded eraser. Notice how I'm kind of flicking my wrist, and I have the kneaded eraser kind of at a point so that I can get some of those, well, here, I'll show you this. So that I can get some of those fur kinds of tufts, kind of like that. So using charcoal, it's a process of adding and erasing and adding and erasing and kind of layering things on top of one another. And again, just for clarity's sake, I'm going to go in and give this a black background so that you can actually see what's happening, because the gray background doesn't do a good job of showing you, the student, what I'm actually doing. Of course, you want to make sure that you're following the logic of what your value pattern is doing according to the light situation that you've set up for yourself. So I'm going to start using my charcoal pencil to kind of do the same thing that I was doing with the kneaded eraser, but just adding in little dark tufts here and there. And you want to make sure that you're following the direction that those tufts go. So if any of you guys are familiar with stippling, it may help to think of it like instead of stippling with your charcoal pencil for fur texture, you're kind of doing this. And the closer they get together, the darker it is, the further away, the lighter the value gets. Notice how everything that I'm doing has that kind of wispy take on it because I want it to look like fur. And there you go. So you have a foot made of fur, stuffed animal, soft and smooth here, more textured here. And the more that you kind of layer and do this mixed with your kneaded eraser and your pink pearl, the more you're going to get layered texture that will read as fur. You just want to make sure that you start with that value pattern underneath, knowing that this is going to be darker than the thing here. This is going to be a little bit darker because it goes back in space. This is closer to us, so it's hitting the light is hitting it a little closer. So keep that in mind, and the more that you work it, usually the better it gets. And the great thing about charcoal is you can wipe it away pretty easily and start again if you need to in certain areas. Now if I wanted to add that last bit of highlight, you only want to add it where there's pretty much white already in your image, and you really want to kind of burnish it down. But I wouldn't rely on this. I would maybe even think about not using it at all, because it can get really muddy and really out of hand very quickly. Like, I hate that. Don't like that. I'm going to try to erase it, but it doesn't always work the way that you think it's going to work. There, much better.